Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Still a lot of uncertainty and I think confusion in the news just because of what's been going on with Israel and Lebanon and that area. Not a ton of information, and I think for me that says a lot. Not just a lot of information, but not a lot of reaction. I'm seeing very little. I mean, this is a pretty significant thing. It's shocking, I guess, but not a lot of reaction from the surrounding nations. I mean, there's a little bit of talk. Saudi Arabia said yesterday that they will not work towards establishing any kind of normalized relations now with Israel until Palestine is its own independent recognized state, and all this kind of stuff. But for the most part, not a lot of talk yet, and I think that everyone's still kind of reeling from the shock. I don't think anyone would have suspected this type of event could have happened, and it just the story just keeps growing of what all transpired, what type of various electronic devices exploded. There's a lot of armchair quarterbacking of how this happened. Were just explosive devices placed in each one of these electronic devices, or was there some way for them to hack into them and cause them to explode, or some kind of backdoor access? And I'm seeing people online that claim to be experts in those areas say completely opposite things, that it's not possible for them to explode, maybe melt down and catch fire but not explode, and then others say, oh yes it is, if this and this, it's quite possible. So there's just still more coming out about that, and it's for sure that this is all connected to greater things. Remember how many times I've said this. It's a big picture on a wall, big mural, and the further you step back, the more that you can see the full picture. And so this may not seem directly connected to a lot of things, but it is. Yesterday, it was announced in Israeli news that the Israeli cabinet has given Benjamin Netanyahu full approval to declare war to go to war against Lebanon, against Hezbollah. There's been every indication is that's where this is headed in a few short days. There's all kinds of reports of military movement into that area, and an Israeli official said that the war is now shifting to the north, that they're pulling assets out of Gaza and taking them north. So things are not over yet. They're kicking up. And then of course, if you shift back to here on the home front, it depends on what day and what moment of the day of whether or not Donald Trump is leading over Kamala or vice versa. On one hand, you've got people saying, "Oh, that Kamala's doing awful," and they know they're going to lose, and they're just trying to hold on for dear life. And then on the other hand, you've got people saying the exact opposite, and of course, that's politics. Everything that is said in that manner, to me, I take with a grain of salt, because it's all just conjecture, it's opinion. What we do know, at least most of you, is that this is all it's all a big show. The whole political thing, it's all a big show, and I suspect that there are at least some people that already know who's going to be the next president, and everything's been planned out. The drama, the lies, the terror, the fear, all these things are all just part of it. So we have to remember that. I think the thing, because I always try to bring it back to a personal level, we can sit here and watch videos and see posts and then talk about, all these events, but how do they directly affect us? How is all this stuff that we're watching affect us? Well, of course, I guess you could make an argument that whoever's president's going to affect us. Although I think an argument could also be made that regardless of who's president, the machine, the system, will move forward in the way that it's planned to, regardless. This event with Israel, and I talked about this yesterday, I think this should open a lot of people's eyes as to what is possible with all this technology. We've talked about, many of us over the years, of the technology controlling us, the technology spying on us, that kind of stuff, and that's been going on for a long time. There's nothing new there. And then, of course, in recent years, it's, well, the technology could control us through AI and all this. How much of the technology can be used as a weapon? I mean, a literal weapon that we probably never thought of. And I think we're seeing that today with all the stuff that's happened in the last few days. And the question is could that be done to us? Could that be done to conservatives? Could there be some type of, devices were hacked by blah, 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 and start to watch, conservatives, all over the country being blown up because of their cell phone or whatever? I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I think also it's going to do exactly what it's doing right now in the Middle East, where Hezbollah and Iran and all these other groups, they're now afraid to use technology. They're sending out orders to destroy your cell phones, to destroy your radios, your pagers, anything like that, your tablets. And they're telling everyone to just start using the old-fashioned landline phones, which are easily hackable, tappable, traceable, all that kind of stuff. So it's destroying the communications, and it brings up, I think, a good point with preppers. We talk about comms all the time. I talk about it. Every other prepper channel there is, they've talked about it at some point, and how critical it is. But also how vulnerable it is, how vulnerable your comms are when they can be destroyed, tapped, traced, tracked, and basically things like this could happen to take it out, so that now you don't have comms, now you don't have a electronic device. This is a certainly a good argument to what I have said so many times of your preparedness plans. You have these contingencies, these fallbacks, right? And along the way, you absolutely have to have a plan to where you fall back to basically primitive, pre-industrial, whatever, no technology. I don't know how you want to look at it, what you want to call it, but that has to be part of our plan. That, okay, we're going to do it this way, as long as cell phones work, as long as they're not overly threatening, or, handheld radios, your Baofangs, your Kenwoods, your Motorola's, whatever, we'll use these, we'll use the internet, but at some point, we may have to cut ourselves off from it, from all of it. Not just because it's connected to the internet, but because it's technology. Your ham radio isn't connected to the internet. I know some can, but generally it's not connected to the internet. But yet it was a weapon for a lot of these people. They're mobile two-way radios. That's what they were using. We have to recognize this level of threat and then have a contingency plan for it. If you're part of a little mag group and the communications in your group is highly dependent upon two-way radios, what do you do when those two-way radios all explode, where you don't have them, or when it's apparent that every action you're doing is being monitored very closely? You need to have a way to communicate with your tribe without them, without technology. And this is something that every individual, every group needs to do, is to sit down and have these conversations of, okay, these are the different types of technology. They're not just web-based technology, they're just technology. Technology that could be used to turn against us. And what kind of plan, what kind of setup can we have to where we can remove that technology and still exist, still survive, still communicate? And so I would, as many things as you can, have non-technological backups to them. I've said to use it as an example. If your plan is to cut firewood so that you can heat your home, and the only thing that you have in your plan is a chainsaw, you better have, cross-cut saws and axes. Because what happens, I don't think anyone's going to hack a chainsaw, but, getting components for it, fuel, things like that, parts, may not be possible at some point. And so you have to go back to chopping wood the old way. These are things that you need to be thinking about, because if anything, it should become very apparent over the last few days that these are huge vulnerabilities. And you can't just assume that, well, that was just them over there. That's not going to happen here. I read an article yesterday saying that that the U.S. government, and I don't know how legitimate this all is, because you know how stuff is, but it was saying that interviewing some tech expert on this subject, and he said, well, the U.S. government has known that it's possible to do these things, but they've chosen to never do them because it was like a last-ditch extreme thing to use technology in this way, causing things to explode and all that, or to hack them, or whatever it is, or to implant devices. Meaning that they know that the capabilities are there, they just haven't chosen to use it yet. And could that happen at some point against you and I? This cultural genocide that they're trying to do, wouldn't put it past them. So be ready for things to escalate. I've been telling you this for weeks, months, and years now, leading up to this election. Be ready for things to escalate. But also, you need to be, again, having conversations within your group, whether it's just your family or it's your mag, of, okay, these are the types of technologies that we have in our home and our group. What can we do what kind of plan can we come up with to not have to use these? These solar generators and stuff. Those things were blowing up in Lebanon. So if you're highly dependent upon having those little, they're not a generator, but you know what I'm saying, the little solar generators. What happens when that thing blows up? You better have more solid plan, folks. Because we're seeing exactly right now what can happen and how much chaos it's going to spread. It's time to get your houses in order and to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.